The snake plant is one of the most forgiving plants you can grow, and yet thousands of growers are quietly killing it with the exact habits they think are helping. Today, everything changes. This is the complete snake plant masterclass. Every care rule, every propagation method, every common mistake, all in one place. Welcome to Plantier Lab, where smart growers discover plant ideas that actually make sense. Whether you have owned a snake plant for years or just brought one home for the first time, this video is built to give you the full picture, not a surface-level rundown, but a real, practical, deeply useful guide. We are covering light, water, soil, feeding, propagation, troubleshooting, and long-term care. And later in the video, I will share the one propagation method most growers overlook completely. One that gives you the fastest results with the least effort. If you find this kind of content useful, subscribe to Plantier Lab for more practical plant ideas delivered this way. Here is the assumption that quietly damages more snake plants than almost anything else. People hear that this plant is tough, nearly indestructible, and extremely forgiving. And they take that as permission to ignore it completely. That misunderstanding is where the real trouble begins. A snake plant does not need constant attention, but it does need the right conditions. It is not difficult to care for, it is specific. The difference matters enormously. When you understand what this plant actually needs versus what it merely tolerates, your results improve dramatically. So before we go through any individual care rule, build this one idea into your thinking. This plant's strength is not that it survives anything. Its strength is that it thrives with very little when the right basics are in place. The goal of this masterclass is to give you those basics clearly, completely, and in a way you can actually act on. Let us begin with the most important condition of all, light. The snake plant is widely described as a low-light plant, and while that is technically true, the phrase misleads more growers than it helps. Low-light tolerance does not mean the plant prefers darkness. It means the plant can survive in lower light conditions without immediately declining. Surviving and thriving are two very different outcomes. And if you want a snake plant that grows consistently, produces new leaves regularly, and looks genuinely healthy rather than just alive, light matters more than most people expect. The ideal placement for a snake plant is a spot with bright indirect light, near a window that receives several hours of natural daylight, but where direct harsh sun does not hit the leaves for extended periods. An east-facing window is often an excellent choice, providing gentle morning light without the intensity that can scorch leaf tips over time. A well-lit north-facing window can also work in warmer climates, though growth will typically be slower. South or west-facing windows can be suitable if the plant is positioned slightly away from the glass or behind a sheer curtain, so the light is diffused rather than direct. Direct, intense afternoon sun, particularly in warm months, can bleach the leaf markings and damage the edges over time. The plant can endure it briefly, but prolonged exposure does real harm. In lower light conditions, such as an interior room with no window nearby, the snake plant will survive, but growth slows considerably. The leaves may lose some of their sharpness and color, and the plant becomes much more vulnerable to root rot from slow soil drying. If your space is genuinely dark, the plant is not the right choice for that spot long term, even though it handles low light better than most. Understanding this one distinction, that low light tolerance is not a preference for shade, immediately improves how you place and care for this plant across every season. If there is one mistake that ends more snake plants than any other, it is overwatering. And the frustrating part is that most people who overwater their snake plant genuinely believe they are caring for it well. The snake plant stores water inside its thick, upright leaves. It is a succulent by nature, not a tropical plant that wants consistent moisture. Its roots are extremely sensitive to sitting in wet soil for extended periods, and when they do, root rot develops quickly and quietly. By the time the leaves show visible signs of trouble, the damage below the soil line is often already severe. The correct approach to watering a snake plant is straightforward once you understand the principle. Water thoroughly, then wait until the soil is fully dry before watering again. In warmer months with stronger light, that waiting period might be roughly every 2 to 3 weeks, depending on your pot size, soil type, and environmental conditions. In cooler months or lower light conditions, the soil dries much more slowly, and watering frequency should reduce significantly, sometimes to once a month or even less. The single most useful habit you can build is to check the soil before watering, rather than watering on a fixed schedule. Push your finger into the soil at least 2 to 3 centimeters below the surface. If it still feels damp or cool, wait. If it feels dry all the way through, it is time to water. When you do water thoroughly so the moisture reaches the roots evenly, then allow the excess to drain completely. Never let the pot sit in standing water. That last point matters more than most growers realize. A pot sitting in a saucer of water is a slow, quiet path to root damage even in a plant that otherwise appears perfectly healthy. The soil you choose for a snake plant is not a minor detail. It is directly connected to the watering problem we just discussed. A soil mix that drains quickly and does not hold excess moisture for long gives the roots the breathing space they need. A dense, moisture-retentive potting mix designed for tropical plants creates the exact conditions where overwatering damage becomes almost inevitable, even when your watering frequency is reasonable. The most practical approach is to use a well-draining cactus or succulent mix, or to improve a standard potting mix by adding perlite or coarse sand in a roughly 1-to-1 ratio. The goal is a light, airy mix that lets water move through it freely rather than clumping and holding moisture against the roots. Pot choice follows the same logic. Terracotta pots are often a genuinely smart choice for snake plants because they are porous and allow the soil to breathe and dry more evenly than plastic or glazed ceramic options. If you prefer a decorative pot that is not porous, that is perfectly workable, but drainage holes become even more critical. A snake plant in a pot with no drainage hole is a plant you must water with extreme care, and even then the risk of trapped moisture is always present. Pot size also matters more than many growers expect. A pot that is too large relative to the root system holds excess soil volume, and that extra soil stays wet long after the roots have absorbed what they need. A snug pot, where the roots comfortably fill the current container without being severely cramped, typically performs better for this plant than an oversized one. Together, the right soil and the right pot create a foundation where the rest of your care decisions become much easier. The snake plant is not a heavy feeder, and one of the more common mistakes even experienced growers make is applying fertilizer too frequently or too generously, believing it will accelerate growth. In practice, over-fertilizing this plant causes more harm than underfeeding. Excess fertilizer salts accumulate in the soil can damage the roots and often lead to leaf tip browning, an outcome that looks exactly like a care problem when the real cause is too much input, not too little. During the active growing season, generally spring through early autumn in most climates, feeding once a month with a balanced liquid fertilizer diluted to roughly half the recommended strength is a practical and safe approach for most growers. Some experienced growers feed every 6 weeks rather than monthly and report equally good results. The key is consistency at a conservative level, not intensity. During late autumn and through winter, the snake plant's growth slows considerably or may pause entirely. This is a natural seasonal response, not a sign that something is wrong. During this rest period, feeding should stop or reduce to once every 2 months at most, depending on your specific growing conditions. Continuing to fertilize through winter when growth has slowed simply increases the risk of salt buildup without providing meaningful benefit. Growth rate expectations also deserve a realistic conversation. The snake plant is not a fast grower even under ideal conditions. New leaves may emerge slowly, and that pace is completely normal. A plant that holds its color, maintains firm upright leaves, and produces 1 or 2 new leaves across a growing season is a healthy plant. It does not need to be pushed harder to prove it is doing well. Earlier I mentioned that one propagation method is consistently overlooked by most growers, and this is the right moment to explain it fully. But first, let us go through every reliable way to propagate a snake plant so you have the complete picture and can choose what works best for your situation. There are 3 main methods worth knowing: division, leaf cuttings in soil, and leaf cuttings in water. Each one works, but they differ meaningfully in speed, effort, and what they preserve about the original plant. Division is the most straightforward method, and also the fastest way to produce a fully established new plant. When your snake plant has produced offsets, the smaller plants that grow at the base connected to the parent through underground rhizomes, you can carefully separate them during repotting. Remove the plant from its pot, locate where the offset connects to the parent rhizome, and use a clean, sharp tool to cut cleanly through the connection. Each offset needs its own healthy root system to establish well on its own. Pot the offset into a small container with well-draining soil, water it lightly, and keep it in a warm, bright spot. Most offsets establish within a few weeks and begin growing as independent plants relatively quickly. This method preserves the variegation and markings of the parent plant perfectly, which matters if you have a particularly attractive variety. The second method is leaf cuttings in soil. Cut a healthy leaf near the base and let the cut end dry and callus over for a day or 2. Then insert the base of the cutting into a light, well-draining mix. Keep the soil just barely moist, not wet, and place the cutting in a warm spot with indirect light. Roots typically develop over several weeks, followed eventually by a small new pup at the base. This method is reliable but slow. The main caution here is that if your snake plant is a variegated variety, meaning it has cream or yellow leaf edges, the new plants produced from leaf cuttings will often revert to plain green. If preserving the exact look of the parent plant matters to you, division is the better route. The third method, and this is the one I mentioned earlier that most growers overlook, is leaf cuttings placed in water. Cut a healthy leaf, allow the cut end to rest for an hour or 2, then place the base of the cutting in a clean glass or jar with a few centimeters of water, just enough to cover the base. Position it in a warm, bright spot and change the water every 5 to 7 days to keep it clean and oxygenated. Within 2 to 4 weeks in good conditions, you will typically begin to see small white roots forming at the base of the cutting. Once those roots reach a reasonable length, roughly 3 to 5 centimeters, you can transfer the cutting to a small pot of well-draining soil and allow it to continue establishing. This method is particularly valuable because you can watch the root development clearly without disturbing the cutting, and it tends to produce visible results faster than soil cutting alone. The same variegation caution applies here. Water cuttings from variegated varieties may produce plain green offspring. But for solid colored varieties, or when your goal is simply to multiply the plant efficiently, water propagation is one of the most accessible and beginner-friendly approaches available. Knowing all 3 methods gives you a practical toolkit. Use division when you want a fast, established result that preserves the parent's appearance. Use soil cuttings when you want a low-maintenance approach and are not in a hurry. Use water cuttings when you want to monitor progress closely and get roots forming as quickly as possible. Even well-cared-for snake plants occasionally show signs that something is off. Knowing how to read those signs correctly, rather than guessing and making the problem worse, is one of the most practical skills a grower can build. Let us go through the most common issues and what they are most likely telling you. Brown or dry leaf tips are one of the most frequently asked about problems, and they have several possible causes. In many cases, the issue is low humidity combined with inconsistent watering. The snake plant handles average indoor humidity reasonably well, but extremely dry air, common in heated rooms during winter, can cause the very tips of the leaves to dry and brown over time. Irregular watering, particularly swinging between too much and too little, can produce the same result. Fluoride in tap water is another contributing factor that often goes unnoticed. If your tips are browning consistently, switching to filtered or collected rainwater can sometimes reduce the issue noticeably. Yellowing leaves are a more serious signal. In most cases, yellowing in a snake plant points to overwatering or root damage. If the yellow leaves are soft, mushy at the base, or accompanied by a faintly unpleasant smell from the soil, root rot is the likely cause and needs to be addressed promptly. Remove the plant from its pot, inspect the roots, trim away any brown or black soft roots with a clean tool, allow the remaining roots to air dry briefly, then repot into fresh, dry, well-draining soil. Withhold water for at least a week after repotting to allow the plant to stabilize. Leaning or falling leaves, where previously upright leaves begin to droop or lean outward, commonly result from one of two things: a pot that has become too crowded with offsets competing for space, or a plant that is not receiving enough light to maintain the energy needed for firm, upright growth. Check both conditions before deciding how to respond. Pale or washed out leaf color often indicates too much direct light rather than too little. If the markings that were once crisp and distinct have faded or the leaves look bleached, consider moving the plant slightly away from the light source or diffusing it. Regarding pests, the snake plant is genuinely less pest-prone than many houseplants, but it is not completely immune. Spider mites can appear in very dry conditions, particularly during winter when indoor air is dry and circulation is low. They typically appear as fine webbing on or between leaves, and the leaf surface may develop a faintly dusty or stippled look. Mealybugs occasionally settle at the base of leaves or in the joints between leaves, appearing as small white cottony clusters. Both can typically be managed by wiping the affected areas with a cloth dampened with a diluted neem oil solution, or by applying an appropriate insecticidal soap. Treat consistently over 2 to 3 weeks to address any eggs or newly hatched individuals that survive the first application. For long-term care, repotting deserves mention. The snake plant does not need frequent repotting and often performs well when slightly root-bound. Repot when roots are visibly growing out of the drainage holes, when the plant is lifting itself out of the pot, or when you notice growth has slowed significantly despite otherwise good conditions. Move up only one pot size at a time to avoid the excess soil moisture problem we discussed earlier. With consistent light, careful watering, the right soil, and occasional attention to these visible signals, a snake plant can remain genuinely healthy for many years with very little intervention. The snake plant earns its reputation, but not because it survives neglect effortlessly. It earns it because when you give it the right conditions, it demands very little ongoing effort in return. Bright, indirect light, soil that drains freely, water given only when the soil is fully dry, conservative feeding during the growing season, and a pot that fits the root system appropriately. Those 5 basics, applied consistently, are what separate a snake plant that merely survives from one that genuinely thrives year after year. This plant suits growers who want real results without daily involvement. Busy individuals, beginners building confidence, and experienced growers who want a reliable, low-maintenance plant that still looks sharp and structured in any space. If that describes you, the snake plant is not just a fine choice. It is genuinely one of the smarter ones available. If this masterclass gave you something useful, leave a like. It helps this kind of content reach more serious growers. Drop a comment below and tell me where you keep your snake plant and how it is currently doing. I read every one, and if you want more practical, deeply useful plant content delivered this way, subscribe to Plant ER Lab. There is a lot more coming that is worth your time.